Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 16 of the Year of Love podcast. I'm your host, Allison Wu. We're thrilled to be doing on this journey with everybody here, right? Creating a year of love and really living your best life. And today we are very honored to have Dr. Melanie Harth, who is a therapist and who is also the podcast host and the public radio host of Living from Happiness, the art and science of how to be happy. Dr. Harth, welcome to the show.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction. Nice to be here with you.
Well, it's wonderful to just share this space because I think, when you think about the levels of love, there's joy, there is happiness, there is love, there's exaltation, there's many different layers, all going towards the same direction, I believe, right? Which is the thought of how to be happy. How did you start this idea about wanting to talk about living from happiness?
I'll tell you, well, what's interesting is that I was actually in a pretty desperate place in my life personally. I was not in great shape, going through a lot of stuff. I happened to hear a PSA from the public radio station here in Santa Fe as I was driving into town one day, and they were looking for program hosts and blah, blah, blah. And I'm listening, and I made a bunch of notes right there as I'm driving. Don't tell anyone. I was careful. It was kind of, I think it can be likened to one of those sort of downloads of grace. It came out of nowhere. Elizabeth Grace would know better than I, maybe Uranus, something astrological, something spiritual, something from the divine. Sometimes I've found that can be a very quiet little whisper. And other times I find it can be like, boom. So I got a boom. I wrote it down, and then I chickened out. I got too scared to actually send a proposal to the radio station, even though, I've got a lot of credentials, a lot of training, but I'm shy. I'm an introvert. I don't always feel safe in the world, which maybe is part of why I'm a psychologist. And long story getting longer by the second here. Sorry. I did submit the proposal, and just again, another out of the blue experience. Oh, let's call it living from happiness. Okay. I believe in part of the work I do with people is positive psychology, working with our strengths, working from our values. I work deeply with what is authentic and true for each individual with whom I'm working. What's true for me is not necessarily going to be what's true for you, nor should it be. But what are your strengths? What floats your boat? What makes you happy? What do you love? And so living from happiness is a perfect. It ends up being a perfect out of the blue title for me.
I love that idea. And I think, there's that whole notion that what you focus on expands.
It really does.
Right. So rather than beating oneself up about I think all of us as humans are so good at like, okay, here are all the things I still need to do. I still need to lose 10 pounds. I need to improve my relationship with my mother-in-law. I
gotta work on my memory. I gotta, not eat so many cookies, whatever it is. Yes.
But starting from a place of strength is such a positive place. And I think when you think about living from happiness, humans have been for centuries kind of living from this place of pain, right? Because something bad will happen. You're like, oh, don't do that again. But the idea of living from happiness to me just evoked this notion that it's a choice, first of all. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit, since you have launched this idea yourself, did you find yourself growing into it? And did you find your own life coming from happiness and a stronger place?
Better and better and better. Yes. Actually, the show, who understands these things that really, for me, live in the mysteries, the great mysteries. I'm very much into research, and I use the science of happiness out of University of California at Berkeley. Also, Yale University has a wonderful MOOC course on the science of well-being. And it is a science. And the University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Martin Seligman and his whole team, they actually have a fantastic website with an entire page full of all free questionnaires and quizzes that anybody can take, and it plugs into their research. So they have a huge database at this point. But getting to focus my attention on living from happiness helped me parse out much better the actual science behind happiness and positive psychology, and what the components of the science of happiness are, like emotional well-being, living from our values, giving back. Giving to others is a signature strength of happiness. Being connected with community is a signature strength. Compassion is a signature strength of the science of happiness. And so, yes, and I also did recently, I just went through the Yale University course, which may or may not still be up. I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't know anymore. But I did a questionnaire through the University of Pennsylvania Questionnaire Center, and it's called an Authentic Happiness Inventory. And I'm generally upbeat. My life is good. Let me knock on wood, because I'll do that too. There are lots of areas that I would like to shore up, but the truth is that everything that matters in my life is great. And that is a choice. Even that statement can be a choice. I don't care what my life is like. I can choose to say everything that matters in my life is great. That I actually discovered on this Authentic Happiness Inventory that I'm not as happy as I should be. I'm not thinking that I'm as happy as I could be. And that really helped me see that my brain's built-in negativity bias from the neuroscience world has been in overtime. Some of that's pandemic related. I think we're all living with a lot of trauma now. It's a scary world out there. I have a background of childhood trauma myself, and all of that's gotten triggered, and I wasn't paying attention, breathing deeply down into the parts of me that are the parts that know I'm okay, I'm safe, choosing every day I can begin my day in a different way. I don't have to doom scroll. For God's sakes, what a bad idea. I can sit and meditate be with my cup of coffee and the sunrise. Very fundamental, costs nothing mindset shift. And I can do that all day long. I can work with my own emotions, my own energy. I do not have to be at the mercy of the choices I make. There's a wonderful shaman who is from Santa Fe, published many books. His name is Jose Luis Stevens, and he teaches shamanism here. And he's done the show a few times. And what I remember so clearly, he said once that in the world of shamanism, every thought is a prayer. Every thought is a prayer. What am I praying for, in effect, with the thoughts I'm thinking? How mindless am I being? And oh, for God's sakes, I can be as mindless as anybody, truly. So every thought is a prayer, and every day, every hour, every moment, I have choice about that.
So what you've described, you've put out a number of really important ways people can be very choiceful about their thoughts. You've put this idea about connecting with community. Do you think there is a formula for happiness?
Ooh, that didn't take very long to ask, but good luck with me answering that. I think the formula is based on, first, what I need and who I am in the world, what my background might be. As I've shared already, I have a background of childhood sexual trauma. That is going to set me up for a nervous system that is hypervigilant, easily triggered, doesn't always feel safe in the world. So a little bit of education about me and my experiences, just a little bit of what might that mean for me, and how does that come through me? How do I embody that? Okay, so self-knowledge is self-power. It really is about self-knowledge. And then I plug who I am into the science of happiness in this case, use a free resource like the University of Pennsylvania, what is it called? Questionnaire Center. I love the VIA character strengths little quiz. It takes about 5 minutes and it identifies my top 5 or 7 character strengths. If my life is focused, if the things in my life on a daily basis are focused more on what strengthens me as a human being this lifetime, then I'm going to be happier. The people around me, the where I live, how I live, what I eat, who I'm with, what I'm doing with my time. Every one of these is really big. And we can't control everything. Oh my God. And there's this fantasy fallacy that we can. Oh, we can't, but we can have a lot more agency over our thoughts and our choices than we realize. A little bit of self-knowledge, a little bit of understanding of what makes one happy, and then consciously choosing it and taking action. I can't just think myself into, I don't know, the life I want. I have so many issues with, that old movie, The Secret. I don't know when that was, a while ago, back in the day.
Back in the day, I think a decade ago, I think because a lot of people complain, it made it look so easy that just thinking it is enough without the piece of the action. And what part do you think just slowing down to be conscious enough to do that? Because I think a lot of what you said, our listeners will have been like, I've heard that before, I've done that, but then I stopped doing it, right? So I think
Right.
there's a piece about committing to slowing down and practicing it every day that I think is such an essential part here. I know for my own self, I hear you saying all these things and it helps me remember that these are the things I need to do. And when I'm doing them, I feel great. But then what happens is you feel great and then you're like, I'm good. I'm happy now. I don't
Yeah.
I need to do it again. So then you're like, oh, I forget. And then you get into your life and you start scrolling, you're on social media and you do all these things. And you're like, I'm not feeling so great anymore. And you remember, oh, wait a minute. I left and abandoned my whole routine.
I do think it's that way for almost everyone. That is normal. I am not Mother Teresa. I am not Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm just a regular person here trying to get through my life. And I forget every day. I forget every day. So it's good to just have the reminders, but also really important because is to maybe plug in a little bit of an understanding about how to change habits, working with our habituated behaviors. Okay, I get up in the morning and really lots of times or sometimes I get up for the coffee. I don't get up for the whole damn day because of the day. I get up for coffee and I love my coffee. Okay, do I want to sit there for an hour? And it does not take an hour for me to drink 1 cup of coffee. Do I want to sit there reading the news? I know everything sucks right now. I do. Or do I want to read a book that matters to me? Or do I want to just sit in front of the open window or as soon as it warms up a little bit outside with sunrise? It's a matter of replacing one habit that does not serve me with another habit that does, that gets me a little closer to where I want to be. It takes a second to slow down. Where in the day are we wasting time? And we waste a lot of time. We get caught in the monkey mind. The Buddhists call it monkey mind, the chatter. You know monkey mind.
Yeah, absolutely. As a writer, I think about Natalie Goldberg, right?
Yes.
And the whole thing, the monkey mind and going and chattering away. But you're so right about being able to be conscious of your thoughts and being clear about where you waste time. I think that's an incredible space to begin. You also talk about happiness as the art and the science. So I
Mhm.
love the idea of going to some of these questionnaires and looking at the scientific basis.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about where you find the art of living a happy life. What is that about for you?
Well, part of it is, well, art, creativity, which takes me to Julia Cameron, who has been on my show, as has Natalie Goldberg. She's great. She's wonderful. And Julia Cameron, who about 30 years ago now, I think, published The Artist's Way. And she has a beautiful exercise, 30 minutes in the morning, first thing with coffee. Right. It's called Morning Pages. Listeners can Google Morning Pages. So the idea is for 30 minutes, you just write. Writing by hand is much better, more powerful than doing it on the computer. It's has to do with all kinds of complicated stuff I don't understand about how the brain works. Holding a pen in one's hand and moving it across a piece of paper, that kinesthetic connection to the brain and almost subconscious awareness is very powerful. Um, okay, the art. So that's where I went in my thinking. The art. It's a creative. It's a process of being creative with yourself. With your. Do I get up and meditate every day? Even though I have done 2 full-on mindfulness-based stress reduction trainings, and every one of my clients hears from me a little bit of meditation. Do I do it every day? No, I don't. It's okay. Do I savor something like my cup of coffee? Thich Nhat Hanh talks about, he has a beautiful phrase that I'm going to paraphrase, probably poorly. Drink your tea, which means be with that tea, be with your cup of tea. Don't be off in the stratosphere. The mind will take off incessantly, constantly, never endingly. That's okay. That's what it does. It's what it's supposed to do. Bring it back home. Bring it back home to yourself. Bring it back home. Bring the scattered parts of your mind back home. That is a skill that anyone can cultivate and strengthen. Am I going to get it perfect? Oh, God, no. Can I try to be better? Yes. So, right now, I do not have a daily sitting meditation practice. What I'm focusing on these days is savoring my experiences. They're like little islands of sanctuary throughout the day. One blackberry, the strawberries are so good right now. One strawberry. Are there days when I do this and fail completely? Yes, that's okay. So the art of it is, don't set yourself up to fail. First, set yourself up to succeed. Understand that it's a creative process, it's an art. You are the canvas. You are the canvas. You're the artist and you're the canvas, and asking for help from the universe is fabulous. From a good astrologer, not a not good one. I've had horrible experiences with bad astrologers. Truly, I should write a book about that. Um, it's okay. Keep trying, keep working with yourself, because who I am today is not necessarily who I'm going to be tomorrow, or the experiences that fill my life today and the people in it that could change tomorrow. That's okay. Go with it, be with it, stay with it, stay present in your life.
I love that. I love that your life is the canvas and you're both the artist and the canvas. I think that is so incredible and so poetic. I have to ask you, given the context of the time we're living in now, post pandemic, or at least having 2 years, so we hope post pandemic, but just in this really unusual time. I mean, I think people have at least been able to identify that the last 2 years have been a huge reset moment for the planet, for ourselves individually, for broader forces. And given where we are now, what is your advice to clients who come to you and say, I'm not quite sure who I am right now. What we've been through has been so unprecedented. I'm not quite sure how to begin anew. What is your advice for them?
Number one, to either learn how to or settle into enough space for yourself to feel into that reality that you don't know who you are anymore and you don't know how to begin. Sometimes we really have to sit in our stuff. And it is not comfortable and it's not easy to do. We would much rather run, monkey mind, do. And it's, look at the world around us. We haven't done a great job as a human race, in my opinion. So first, understand that to me, it's completely normal with such an insane world out there, with so many things changing so quickly, so much loss, so much grieving. We've lost so much, so many to sit with, to be able to be with and not feel annihilated by whatever your emotions are about how you're feeling right now, what's going on. Ask for help. I don't know how to begin. Okay, that's okay. It's okay that you don't know. You have friends, you have people like me, a psychologist, psychotherapist. Sometimes, again, very good astrologer can be helpful. Begin looking not so much around you as within you. Asking yourself the questions, what do I need right now? And you might not be able to even answer that. You might need to feel your way in almost what can feel like a very dark place. You don't know. Coffee versus tea, super mundane example. Do you want a cup of coffee or do you want a cup of tea? Well, if you're not sure, then try a cup of tea. How is that? How does it feel in your body? Come home to your physical body. What does it need? Who feels good to you to be around? Who feels not so good? Who's making you nuts? What things are you doing in your days that bring you any sort of peace, satisfaction, contentment, not to mention joy? And again, what's making you crazy? What gets on your last nerve? And really, the answer is really just be honest with yourself about what is true for you, because that will get you going. And there's a Spanish poet, Antonio Machado, who has a beautiful poem, which I can't do in Spanish. It's called The Way or The Path. And the first couple of lines are, there is no way. You make the way by walking. There is no path. The path is made by walking. So we have to start walking. We do have to take action. We cannot sit. We don't want to sit in our stuff forever. It's miserable.
Yeah.
We have to take action. We have to try. Try the cup of tea versus the cup of coffee. Try that person versus taking a walk in the woods. Try reading that book instead of doom scrolling.
I love that. I love that. That is so beautiful and so poetic. Do you find that living in Santa Fe is also an amazing canvas for your life to find such inspiration?
It has been for me. It is also the case that for a while I felt very trapped here, and I could not leave, and I was not happy. And so here we are. It's called the land of enchantment. That's sort of the marketing tagline, probably on the license plate. I don't know.
Yes.
The land of, okay, but many people here call it the land of entrapment.
Interesting.
It's a very powerful place energetically on the planet. And my personal belief is that those of us who come and stay are here because of a sort of a deep cleansing and healing that can be available here. And as I've said a couple of times, it doesn't always feel good to do that healing. It's not always comfortable. But yeah, I love the space. I lived in New York for a couple of years, in the city, which I loved, 71st and Broadway. Yes, Luxembourg Cafe. Yes. And yet I'm a Southwest person. I need the space. I need to breathe. And I'm born lived the first 35 years of my life in Southern California, where you could not find a piece of land to stand on without 1,000 other people being around you. I need the solitude. I need the space. I love the multicultural elements here. I love what is possible to learn from some of the Native American cultural practices and traditions. It's not perfect. I don't want to romanticize it. It's oftentimes the fact that there are 3 cultures living here, but we're not all intertwined. We live adjacent to each other, and the cultures kind of stay away from each other.
More work to do there.
Yes, a lot of work, a lot of trauma, a lot of intergenerational, historic, ancestral traumas perpetrated by the whites who came, and then the Spanish who came before them, and then this one came before them. And it's a fascinating place for that.
Yeah. But I think you talk about it as a place of healing. I know you talk about this extensively on your blog and on your website, santafetherapist.com, but your own story is really rather amazing too. Can you just talk a little bit about just your transition from being, living a life, very, luxurious life in Aspen, and coming to be a therapist? Can you imagine today that you would have been living this life that you are today, given where you started? I mean, can you just give people a sense about your journey?
Well, sure. My dad was a plumber, worked at the Long Beach Naval Shipyards his entire life, 8th grade education. My mom was pulled out of school in the 9th grade to travel with the carnival because her new stepfather was a carny. I mean, really, it's like, so they didn't sit around going to Carnegie Hall. They didn't have the education. Super traditional. I was born in 1953, Southern California, when, in my way of thinking about it, it was still toward the end of it kind of being the golden land. We went to the beach a lot, and it was lovely, and it felt safe, and the weather really was perfect and kind of la la land. In many ways, at least in my memory. In many ways, an idyllic childhood with my siblings. And then there was, the childhood sexual trauma by my step grandfather. So it was very much a mix of sort of ecstatic, blissful, perfect, and the deepest, darkest pits of despair all at the same time. So that's sort of what was part of what informed me. Books were my best friends, my first best friends. I love books. I used to escape in books, and I love books. I love to read. I still do. Books everywhere. And in 4th grade, California, pre-Reagan, that's how old I am. Music education orchestra was available to anyone who wanted to sign up for it. So in 4th grade, I raised my hand, volunteered to play the cello. I did not even know what the cello was. I did not come from a family that knew what a cello was, but I will give my parents a lot of credit. Sure, you want to do this? Great. And so I had some incredible sort of mystical experiences as a very young girl, both on the land, being wild and free with my sibs, and with sort of the transcendent experiences. I know it sounds woo-woo. I live in Santa Fe, what to tell you, but it also really happened. Transcendent experiences through early connection with this idea, this world, the experiences of playing the cello and performing and learning classical music. And then there was always the Beatles. My mom let us stay up on Sunday night, Ed Sullivan, to watch the Beatles, first American. So it's like I had a lot of good influences, and then it just sort of went on from there. And I always, though, sort of wanted more. I had a real yearning, a real longing, a real wanting to reach my hand out for what I had felt and tasted a couple of times. I was also dealing with a lot of childhood sexual trauma with no help from anyone ever, ever. Not then, not as a kid. I was on my own. But I knew there was more, and I kept going for that. And through a series of all kinds of stuff, I married. He was at that time my boss at the LA Philharmonic. I was marketing coordinator at the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and he was the general manager. He ran the Hollywood Bowl. We moved to Aspen when he was invited to run the Aspen Music Festival in school. So I went from this little kid who knew nothing. I mean, really nothing. We used to eat at Taco Bell on Friday nights when there was enough money, and tacos were $6 for $1 on Friday nights. I still remember that. I went from that to hosting dinners with people like Michael Tilson Thomas, who still is the music director, conductor at San Francisco Symphony, for instance. Itzhak Perlman, the great violinist, played poker at our house one night, and he was a worse poker player than me, which isn't saying anything. So again, very much, what am I doing? And so how did I deal with all that pressure and all of that unprocessed childhood trauma and those early sacred wounds? Well, I thought I could keep up drinking with my husband, who weighed between 200 and 250 pounds. I don't weigh that much. Anyway, I started drinking. And I just wanted to keep up and be one of the kids at the table, the grown-ups at the table. And I also really wanted to be left alone because I was so scared. I was so terrified. So I could talk about this for a long time. That could be enough. I'll stop there.
But it's an amazing transformation. I think why I love hearing, your origin story is that just hearing where you started from and where you are now. I think sometimes people, can listen to people who are talking about these types of topics and think, wow, your life is amazing. It must have always been amazing. I think what's really most exciting is seeing the path of growth that human beings can take themselves on. I just watched Oprah interview Viola Davis, the actress, on Netflix, and her story is an incredible one that I was not aware of whatsoever. And I think that's the kinds of things that human beings really connect to, right? Yes. That authentic place of transformation is possible. We are alive each day to give us the strength and the energy to move forward and to be an example and to reach out and help others. So, I mean, I think that's why I wanted you, thank you for sharing a bit of your story. It's a fascinating one. And certainly please visit your blog for more. Dr. Harth, where can people learn more about what you do, listen to the podcast, connect with you in general?
Thank you. It's so fun. I don't talk about this stuff usually, and I don't even think about it really, because it's like so many lifetimes ago, and yet it's all living in this same body right here, right? And yeah, the path of growth. And I'm thinking as you're talking, si se puede. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can overcome. We can overcome extraordinarily horrific experiences. And I believe in part that may be why we're here this time around in Earth School, not to make it all rosy, because it isn't, but it's possible. It's doable. Yes, we can. And my website is thesantafetherapist.com. And that's where the podcast is. As soon as I get the new podcasts up on the site, they'll be there. And when I write new blog posts, it's there. And my story is there. And lots of information about how I work and what is possible, what I know from both personal experience as well as working at this point with hundreds of people over the years. I know what's possible. I know what's possible.
Well, thank you, Dr. Melanie Harth. Living from Happiness, the art and science of how to be happy. It's certainly been an amazing conversation having with you, just to hear your formula for success and happiness. And you've given us a lot to really think about and apply in our lives. So thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're such a wonderful host. Thank you. What a great listener you are. You'd be a great psychologist.
Thank you. I thought about it, but I think I'm one of those people who actually wants to, quote unquote, tell people what to do rather than.
Well, I I get pretty directive sometimes too. Yeah. Well, you're a wonderful listener. Thank you. It's really been a real pleasure being with you for this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the time.